Namaskar. The question is, why are people afraid of not spiritual practice, but spirituality? Yoga has come to the West, meditation has come to the West, but those yoga and meditation, they're different than the original. They have been stripped of their soul. The soul is gone, the spirituality is not there. Yoga is there, is like exercise, okay, very scientific exercises. And yes, it is proven that it increases your immune system by 10% and things like that, you know. We read and we get impressed and we practice them. But the essence, the core, the most interesting, the most beautiful thing is out. It's no more there. Even meditation. It has become like, oh, observe your mind, be mindful. What is that? It's nothing interesting. But yoga, if you take the original word, yoga, there are many definitions. But really the spiritual definition is samyoga, yoga ityukta jivatma paramatmana. The unity between individual spirit and cosmic spirit is yoga. Huh? How interesting is that? How beautiful is that? I remember when I came in touch with yoga, I was a boy of 12 years old. And then I got the book, and there were two parts of that book. In one part it was saying, Hatha Yoga, the path towards, physical health and perfection. And then the second part, Raja Yoga, the path to the cosmic consciousness. You can imagine. So the first I didn't read, I didn't want to read. I just, okay, cosmic consciousness, that was so beautiful. That really intrigued me, that really attracted me so much. So that core, the most interesting, the most beautiful core of yoga is no more. So much yoga, but no cosmic consciousness. Why is that? And that is spirituality. Spirituality means has to do something with the spirit, not with ghosts and spirits, but spirituality with the cognitive faculty, with the supreme cognitive faculty, with consciousness. Just a few days ago, I was talking to one lady. Actually, what I'm going to say is that why the soul is taken out? Because you cannot sell that kind of yoga. You cannot propagate it widely. Why? People are afraid of spirituality. And why are they afraid of spirituality? This is the question. Why are they afraid of spirituality? And whether or not that fear is valid. A few days ago I was talking to one lady, and she was getting interested in meditation, in spirituality, and she started to meditate. But then she said, Dada, I feel that it transforms me and it scares me a bit. And I feel that if I really go into this spirituality, I might have to give up my way of life, my worldly pleasures, my social kind of life. I have to give it up. So I am a little bit afraid of that. And in my estimation, she's a very spiritual lady, remarkable, not common. She has really that grain of spirituality very much awakened in her. So I told her, why do you think like this? Why do you have to give something up? You don't have to give something up. And exactly this is the fear. That I want to give something up. I will have to give something up. People want happiness and want to escape suffering. So when they encounter spirituality, they feel that maybe I will have to give up something which gives me happiness, and maybe I will embrace a lifestyle which will give me suffering. That's why the fear is there. When people see the examples of saints in the history, different holy men, and then those people were very simple. In many cases, they could eat just bread and water. But if you just eat bread and water, it doesn't make you a saint. It just makes you a poor man. That's all. You're not becoming a saint by eating bread and water. But by becoming a saint, you might not need anything else. Because you just eat bread and you find, wow, such a heavenly happiness. That comes as you establish yourself in spiritual happiness. Everything in the world starts to be so extremely sweet. That's why even it is bread and water, it is great. So, but people get this wrong idea that to go to that state, I must give up every pleasure that I have. I will have to exchange it for that greater something which is promised somewhere later. Maybe after I die, I go to paradise, and there I'm going to enjoy. So that kind of notion is there. But I want to live now, and it is a very valid concern. I want to live now. Maybe, who knows? Maybe there is nothing there behind that line. Who has come back? We don't know. I want to live now. The practice of meditation, and it is also one principle of yogic morality, is called Iishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means to take shelter, to establish yourself in Ishvara, the cosmic controller, the cosmic consciousness. So, and what is the shelter? Shelter is something which gives me happiness and security. So right now, my shelters, money, health, education, friends, relative, all those factors, they give me happiness and they give me security. But in meditation, I will slowly work to discover a more permanent and greater source of happiness. And I will become more dependent on that and less dependent on my normal shelters. So that's why if you discover something very beautiful, then you don't have to depend on something limited. I will give you an example. We were doing 3 hours of singing of the mantra, and we went very high. We felt very high. And my friend went higher. I was also very high, but he really went into, ecstasy. And he was just sitting there like this, and we are good buddies, no? And then I come to him, hey, let's go, take dinner. He said, just let me be, because I feel so good now. I'm so complete, I'm so full of happiness that actually I feel if I'm going to eat, it's going to ground me down and it will take it away from me. I want to still, I'm sorry that I'm not giving you a company, but just let me be for a while in this. So he is not giving up. It's not like I will not take dinner because I need to burn my fat. And I'm going to suffer, but I'm not going to eat it, and I will exercise my willpower. He is not taking it because he doesn't want it, because he is already complete. People are afraid. They look at the spiritual people. That's what my case was also there. When I looked at the practitioners of meditation, I saw that none of them is drinking, none of them is smoking. They're vegetarians, they're not eating meat, and they're very positive kind of people. And I thought, this kind of holy people, I didn't have plans to become like them. So I asked my Dada, do I have to give up the alcohol and all? He said, no, you just have to do meditation. I told you the story before. So I started to do meditation. And then after some time, I also gave up alcohol. I also give up smoking. And then it's not like since then 20 almost 25 years have passed, and it's not like I'm regretting, oh, giving up cigarettes was the worst decision of my life. That was very big mistake, I miss it so much. There was nothing like that, because the maturity came within me, the understanding that I don't need it anymore came, and I let it, it's just like fall off, you know, like a dead skin, it just falls off, and you're not weeping and you're not crying, oh, this dead skin was so beautiful, now I don't have it. So it just falls off. So this is what happens, and it involves no suffering. It doesn't involve suffering, and it involves a greater happiness. Generally, I became a happier person. That's why those things, they fall off of me. So it's like that. The child is playing in the sand with the forms, and he makes the cakes from the sand. If you forcibly take that form, his toy, from him, he's going to cry. But if the child is mature and he starts to play with the toy cars, then these sand cakes, they're not anymore interesting for him, so he gives them up. He gives them up. So similarly, on the spiritual path, the growth is organic. Is organic. You don't have to force it. You don't have to cut your hand to experience spirituality. You meditate, you develop higher dimensions, and then something falls off. And then, do we have to avoid pleasures? Is the pleasure the enemy of spirituality? Attachment is the enemy of spirituality. Because when you are attached to something, then when you lose the object of attachment, then you feel pain. But if you are not losing the object, but you are losing the attachment, you are not having any pain. If I lost the attachment towards tobacco and cigarettes, and the cigarettes, they may be there, but I am not anymore attached. Do I feel pain? I don't feel pain. I don't have any compulsion to smoke. Nothing. It's gone. Then there is this notion that monastic life is somehow spiritually more advantageous than the family life. And then this big fear. People are afraid to be really spiritual. I have to become monk. But that's also not true. You can be really spiritual as a family people, as a family person. So it is the same kind of dignity to be a monk and to be a family person. From monk, the society expects a lot, and from a family people, society expects a lot. There are different roles. There are different roles. The monk has a little bit of advantage because he has all his time for himself. That can be advantage, that can be disadvantage. He may become very egoistic, he may become very good, very altruistic. Means I have all the time in the world, and I will utilize that time to serve humanity. That's good. And then family people, they have to take care first of their families. Families, all the affairs, relatives, everything. And then what remains, they will utilize for the service to the society. So some people, they have burning desire within. Not desire, but whatever, inspiration. They have that inspiration that I must help humanity make a step on the evolutionary ladder. I want to see it. I want to utilize my entire potential for that, to push the humanity forward. And those who have that kind of desire, the monastic life suits them better. So I have chosen many years ago the monastic life. I have not regretted it, because I feel it is very suitable. I like that kind of lifestyle, and I'm very happy with that lifestyle. But the family people, I also see that there is a challenge if you're a family person but you're isolated from satsang, from communication with other spiritualists, from really like working neatly, closely together with other spiritualists, then there is a chance that spirituality is drained away from you. Because the monk always, whenever he is, it's like a moving flame, moving torch light, and he sets afire everyone around him. So that's, and naturally the environment becomes spiritual. So, and since the family people, they are engaged in somewhere else, they have to do their jobs. Sometimes they don't have the same kind of opportunity, and sometimes they are isolated. But if we create the environment where we all spiritualists, we all work together and communicate, support each other, that kind of environment may create a huge impetus for spiritual development. And when such environment is created, I don't see spiritually much difference between the monks and the family people. But even socially, if they work together towards the greater goal, then I think all is the same. Yeah, but some people, they prefer that lifestyle, and some people, they prefer that lifestyle. And that is kind of a revolutionary idea, because normally people believe that monks, they are much higher than the family people. But I think that can create also immature monks, because, oh, I want to become, something really great. And not because you really want, but because you want that recognition, and you believe that the spirituality is only possible then. But when it comes really truly from yourself, that you feel, I want to become monk, not because it is a good status in society, not because I believe that I will be more spiritual in that way, but just because I want. And if you do what you want, you become happier. So that is. And then I believe that, I remember my teacher, somebody asked him, he said, do you want me to become monk? And what he answered, he said, no, I want you to be happy. I want you to be happy. That answer really struck me. I thought, because there is a huge pressure, actually the monks are needed. It's good to have them around. But he said, no, I don't want you to become monk. I want you to be happy. Because the happy person spreads happiness. And that's what we need in the society. So spirituality does not take anything from you. Spirituality gives you something. And something dies out. Something is not anymore relevant. You don't want to hold it anymore. You don't want to spend your energy there. So you will see that when you start meditating, many friends will change. You will find that maybe it is sad, but I don't find any more interesting to be with these people. I like them, I appreciate them, but somehow there is no more connection. We have parted our ways. And that's the way of life. If you remain, it's like if you remain attached to one place, you cannot go on your journey. So the environment changes. Also, you are not very interesting anymore. You are not going to drink with them. So many things will change. The friends, things in life, environment. But you take it as a journey. And we are in a journey anyway. Because we are just like trains. We met on the station, we saw from this window, we saw in that window. We met, the eye contact for 5 minutes, and then my train moved that way, your train moved that way. So that meeting was joyful, and then parting was joyful also. So this is the law of life, and then it happens to everybody. But to spiritual seeker, because they develop faster, it happens faster. And then you will find the emptiness is not there. You will find people who are of the same mind, who are also very much, they have a goal to develop themselves. And then you acquire the same rhythm, same pace with those people. And you move together, so you don't have to part. Because the two trains just going 60 kilometers per hour, 80 kilometers per hour, 90 kilometers per hour, and you are just like, ah, we are together. This is how it works. So, but my point is that spirituality is something organic. It is not forced. It is not forceful. You don't have to eat bread and water because you imagine that this is the saintly way of life. It is not benefit. You enjoy. It is good to enjoy. But enjoy such things that do not harm your health. And those things which harm your health, is better to abstain from them, and then desire diminishes. And at the same time, as you desire, like you avoid the objects which are harming you, and at the same time you work within your mind, elevate your mind, and then the mind becomes not interested in those objects. Like, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous, they say that alcoholism is an incurable problem. And they designed this 12-step program, which is, by the way, very spiritual. I respect them very much. And they say it's like a lifetime problem. We have to fight it, and there is a danger anytime in life to succumb to desire to drink alcohol. But I would contradict, I would say, with meditation, this problem is curable. Because you outgrow that and you leave it behind. But the good point is that until you are outgrown and you know it's going to harm your life, harm your health, harm your, your world, harm other people, then you avoid that. Avoid until the desire diminishes. And at the same time you change your internal feelings and outgrow that desire. This is what happens in spirituality. So there is not a single, there is no iota, there is no even 1 centimeter space for fear. No need to fear. Let's go on the path of meditation. It says, Atanamayar Patonabudai. Come on the path of meditation. Let come the storm, let come anything. I will be on the path. I will be on the path of spirituality. I will move ahead. I will overcome difficulties, and I will arrive to a great reality, to the higher dimension of life. Yeah, I hope I could give the clarity to this topic. So if I haven't, you please write in the comments and let us clarify it, because this is very important. Namaskar.